Hey YouTube, we're back. It's a couple weeks later since I installed the air intake, and as you saw, I have a hole in my intake. It's for a MAF sensor that comes on a different version of my engine, but I don't have that MAF sensor, so I've got to plug the hole. As I also told you a couple weeks ago, I don't have access to many tools. Actually, I'm not even at my father-in-law's house. So I have no tools for another week until we move in and all my stuff gets delivered. So I'm doing a gum and shoestring fix, and I cut up these cans. These are the size of the plug I need. I'll get to why I cut the holes out of this in the meantime. So I'm gonna be sandwiching all of these layers together, and I'm hoping that with the layers and the epoxy, it's gonna be strong enough to maintain its form and maintain its seal. I do have a gasket for the MAP sensor, so hopefully that will help as well. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to clean with alcohol. This is 70%, higher the better because it leaves less residue behind, but you got to do with what you got. So ideally you want to wear gloves when you're cleaning parts like this, because your hands, even though you might not be able to see it, have oil. On a really clean part, you can see your fingerprint on it when you touch it. So you want to use gloves. I'm not going to go through the trouble to go to the store right now. I've got gloves in my storage when it gets delivered, but I don't need more gloves, and frankly, I'm just going to be lazy on this one. I don't think it'll be too critical. The biggest issue is when you're doing something like paint, where you can actually see it, but I don't think it's going to affect the adhesion in a way that's going to compromise the structure of my seal. All right, so I've got all my pieces cleaned up, and now it's time to scuff them. Ideally, you'd want to use 600 grit sandpaper, but I don't have any, and I'm lazy and I'm not going to buy some. Please don't follow my example. I'm going to use a sponge, and it should scuff it up a little bit. I'm hoping it'll get the job done. If it doesn't, y'all will definitely hear about it. But after I scuff them, I've got to clean them again because it's going to be tearing up. This is all paint or some kind of ink that's on here. It's going to be scuffing that up, and you're going to get particulates all over it, and not to mention the sponge has been used. So I'm going to scuff them and then clean them, and then cut back to y'all when I'm ready to assemble. All right, so the sponge doesn't work, so I'm gonna skip this part and hope for the best. Steel wool probably would have worked better. Don't have any. So make sure you have sandpaper if you ever need to do this, but I'm just gonna be a man and not learn from my mistakes and push forward until something bad happens. I'm gonna clean these and I'll get back to you. All right, so now that we're ready to assemble, I have these separated. I have what I want to be on the outside, and then I have these two and these bottom sides. So at first I was gonna put these in between some of the layers, but then I had the genius idea. I made little stringers and spars to hopefully add some rigidity, and since these are folded in half, they're probably gonna be a little thicker than two of these, but two should be closer than three thick, I think. So I have this tin foil down to protect the table I'm working on, and then I have this plastic bag that I ripped in half because I'm going to close it over and squeeze down on that to sandwich it. I have my 5-minute epoxy here, and I'm going to be mixing it up and applying it. So I was hoping to do it all in one setting, but between the foil breaking a little bit and me just having a little more patience than I used to, I'm gonna be doing this in 2 halves and I'll put it together. If I were to try to rush it, I might end up running out of time, and then I'd possibly be left with a mess. I'm not gonna analyze everything that could go wrong, but I'm just gonna get these lined up a little better and do the next half afterwards. Something else I forgot to mention is you want to make sure that what you're using is right for your application. For instance, mine's indoor-outdoor water resistant, and it bonds to metals. There's a lot of similar products that aren't water resistant, or they don't bond to metals. They're meant for just wood or just for plastics, or they don't work as well. And so you want to make sure that you're buying the right hazmat for the right job. All right, so as you can see, it's pretty rough. Some of the things slid to the side while I was clamping it via a book in my foot, but I think it'll clean up fine, and I think it should seal just fine. If I were to do this over again, I'd probably glue a bunch of sheets and then cut out the shape that I want.
Are you sure about that?
But I think this will do. Hey guys, I'm back in my in-laws. I'm picking up the Supra. I finally got a place to live after waiting months, a permanent place with my own garage. So I'm up here. I've got the patches that I made for the intake, and I'm gonna run you through what happened with those and how they turned out. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to take my car, get it serviced, and drive all the way back to San Diego and put it in my garage where I can see it every day. Well guys, I made 2 patches. This one, I cut the pieces out and then adhered them. I ran into an issue with them sliding a little bit side to side. This one I layered together and started cutting, and I have an issue of delamination.
No, God!
And also, as I'm trying to cut it out, the epoxy is very brittle. And you can hear,
No, God, please, no!
it crunching under there. Imagine a windshield getting cracked. It's just spider webbing, and it's gonna cause further delaminations and disbonds. It's not gonna work out, so I think this is the best one I have. And so there's a few things that can cause disbonds like this. It can be damage that cracks or weakens the structure and the bond between the pieces. Like you can hear it's breaking and cracking underneath and between these layers. You could have a material inside, in between, something that's preventing the adhesion from one or more surfaces. And usually that's due to inadequate cleaning. In this case, I think it was that. And also inadequate clamping pressure. I don't think I had this clamped adequately. I thought I had it clamped actually even better than that one, and I had it clamped for longer, but I also might have mixed the epoxy up not as well. Maybe it wasn't as even, or it wasn't as, I didn't mix it well enough. But there's a lot of different things, so you just gotta be careful and take your time. Preparation is 90% of what makes a good job good. All right, so I drilled out my piece, I test fitted on there, and when I test fitted on there, I had patched the hole previously with duct tape because I didn't want anything to get in here while I was gone, even if it's just something like a spider, but you know, dust could get in there too. So I left the tape on there when I was test fitting this, and I kind of liked the way it compressed. So I decided I'm gonna put some duct tape on here too. I'm gonna make sure I get out any air bubbles and then poke some holes. And then I've got a gasket I made, and then this gasket that's gonna go up against the mating surface. And that will be enough to give me some peace of mind for this temporary fix. By the way, I just wanna say this is not a permanent fix. This is a shoestring and gum fix that's just gonna get me from point A to point B. This is not something I recommend you do unless you really, really need it just to get you home. After I get this home, I'm gonna be fixing it the correct way by making an actual part and installing it correctly.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
All right, well, you can see my patch is installed. I'm upset that I installed it upside down, but not upset enough to fix it. So the reason that this isn't a permanent fix is, one, because it's made out of soda cans. Two, you can see there's a little bit of flex right here. And now I'm certain that this is gonna hold. And even if I was worried about it, there's gonna be a lot of vacuum in this intake there's going to be vacuum even at idle. There's air being sucked through here, and that's going to want to close this. It's going to be sucking down on it. So again, this is not a long-term fix by any stretch. This is just to get my vehicle serviced, and then I'm heading straight home. Hey, I just want to address this. I've been saying that I'm taking my vehicle to get it serviced. I am taking it to a Toyota dealership to get it serviced rather than servicing myself. I want to get it serviced before I drive it home. When I was attempting to fix the spark plugs, I saw my oil was getting old, and I've been putting off an oil change for not thousands of miles, maybe a couple hundred kilometers, but I've been putting it off and I don't know why, and it needs to get serviced, and I think it would be good to get a dealership service on its history since now that it's back in the States. So after this, I will be doing all my fluid changes by myself, but I just wanted to address that. This isn't going to be a vehicle that someone else works on. This is going to be a vehicle that I build up. And I'm hoping that during the build of this vehicle, it's not just an important part of my life, but I hope it's an adventure for you as well. Hey everyone, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and if you like what you're seeing, then please share it with a friend. It helps out way more than you could know. And if there's something you want to see, if you have any tips, or you want to see my channel go a different direction, you want to see the build go a different direction, let me know in the comments, because I will read it, and I'm